So I'm not seeing. Are you streaming yet? Because I'm not seeing it. Okay, give me 1 second, folks. There we go. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 10-Minute Trade Room U.S. Retail News. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the Trading Director. Remember, please, that all trades that we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so trade carefully, please. Okay, now, so retail news is a different type of report. We have not yet had our trap trade webinar because we don't. I'm waiting, still been working very, very hard on a new version of the software. It's taken longer than I expected, but we're close. So I would almost prefer if people watch me this morning because I'm testing the new version. It's perfectly okay to test this morning. Now, the trap trade's been working very nicely. So what is a trap trade? Let me see if I can show a previous report. I'm hearing news in my headset, so I just wanted to make sure it was nothing dramatic. So a trap trade is a trade where we expect a reversal to take place. So the idea is we're putting orders. We bracket the market, but we do it differently. We bracket the market, but when the market goes up, we're not buying, we're selling. When the market goes down, we're buying. So it's a totally different style trade. So what's the enemy of a trap trade? The enemy of a trap trade is a burst in one direction, okay? Because the idea is you want price to go up or down, down or up. You want it to do both, okay? You don't want it to do what the breakout trade does, which is to just move in one direction. We want it to do both. So let me show. Now, you know what? Last month, I remember, if I remember correctly, and let me look, I think we had a lot of very unusual movement, yes, on the micro gold. So I don't want to show micro gold. So let's go to August. I think we used normal size. So the first thing that's different about the trap trade is when it's enabled, you get a different logo, okay? You get the trap, you get the jaws with money in the jaws. It's a different logo. So that way you can differentiate between which strategy we're using because it's a separate strategy also. I'm just recording this. Okay, so let's look at August and see how it looks. So with a trap trade, you've got two positions, a stop, of course, but you also have an entry time and a preparation time. The preparation seconds is actually the time that you're entering the trade. It's how many seconds before 8:30 the orders are going to show up on the chart. So if your preparation is 20, then 20 seconds before the report is released, your orders will show up on the chart. The entry time just sets the software so it knows what time the trade is scheduled to be, the report is scheduled to be released. So if you have an 8:30 report, the entry time should be 8:30. And if the activation says 40, then your order prep should be 20. And the reason for that is 8:29:40 is 20 seconds before 8:30. It's not 40 seconds before 8:30, it's 20 seconds. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. But you'll see here it's going to be 20. There you go. Okay, so it's 20. So you have a position and a position, and we call them tiers on the trap trade. And then, of course, you also have a stop. And you have a bracket center, which is set to price at the time. And you have a stop loss position, which should be at last fill price. So the items that you're entering are the entry time, which this would be 8:30 this morning. Order prep would be 20 seconds, 20 seconds before the news. And your tiers. These are the tiers here, and they're always in a range. It's a tradition. Just goes back to the early days of the company. So you could use 16, 17, or 18 on your first tier, 25 to 30 on your second tier. If the markets are very volatile, you could go for the higher tiers because they're a little bit further away. That's how far away your ticks are from the current price. That's what it means. Okay? It's not as complicated as it initially seems, but so you'll see what happens. So we set it according to those settings. And then when the trap trade, so 20 seconds before the news comes out, the trap trade puts the orders, the tiers on the chart. So you have your 16 and your 28, if that's what you used, 16 ticks, 28 ticks. The arrow is the current price when you put the orders on the chart. And then just like the breakout trade, we have buttons. We have the combine button, which combines orders into one order, combining into the closest order to current price. And then there's a couple of different things on the trap trade. If you don't get much of a move, you can cancel the outer tier so that you're only trading one contract. So that's the cancel button. It doesn't mean cancel the trade. It means cancel the outer tier. The way that you close the trap trade, the best way to close a trap trade is to hit the close button before you're in a trade. Hit the close button before you're in a trade. Okay? That's the right way to close it. And then the idea is price is going to move. It fills you. And now you're in a profit. You could actually close this trade out if you wanted to, because it filled you short. It popped up long, and you can close the trade out. You could either move your orders or you could hit the close button. Now, when you hit the close button on getting out of a trade, it's always not as good of a fill. Okay? It's always not as good of a fill. So ideally, the best way to close an order, close live orders, is to move your targets into price. Hopefully, price will move into your targets. Okay? I'm going to show all the settings again, Blessing, because I didn't set my trade up yet. I'm going to show all my settings. Now, because people are not expert on this strategy, I would truly appreciate if people just sim it today. I promised that we're going to have a webinar, and I'm going to keep my word. We are going to have a webinar. I always keep my word. Gold is very volatile this morning also. It's extremely volatile. It's had a very big move. So now I'm testing the newest version of the software. Some people might, and another reason is some people might have downloaded a long time ago. You might be on version 2. On the website, version 3 is current. There's been some changes made. So the first thing, so let's look from the top. Bracket center should be price at the time. Average price bars is a default. A default means it stays what it is. And then position size 1 should be a 1. Position size 2 should be a 1. Wait for spike is a 5. That has to do if there's a burst. The old version of the trap trade before version 2 used to put orders on the chart without a stop being placed. But now there's a protection where if there's a burst, it'll put a temporary stop on the chart and it'll wait 5 seconds before it moves it to the proper place. Almost never has any meaning anymore. The stop loss position should be last fill price. In version 2, it says average price. Change it to last fill price if you're running version 2. And there's nothing wrong with version 2. It just has a few less features, but it works. The stop loss, you enter last. So the tiers we're going to take from the daily market mover. Okay. Bear with me. I hear financial juice, but I'm not hearing them. So, okay. I just want to turn up the volume a little bit. Okay. So we're going to take our orders. Our tier 1 is, you see, it's a range between 16 and 18. I'm going to take 18 today. I take it back. I'm going to take 16 because I want to get filled generally. Let me think for a second. The market's extremely volatile. I'm going to do the outer numbers because of market volatility. So I'm going to go 18. I'm going to take my furthest tier away. And my tier 2, I'm going to take 30. So I'm going to take 18 and 30. So the further you are, the further your tiers are, in a way, it's a little bit safer from a move in one direction because it has to move a little bit further. Okay. So think of those as your brackets. Think of those as your brackets because that's essentially what they are. Our entry time is 8:30. The entry time just means what time is the report being released? 8:30. If it's the wrong time, the strategy won't fire. And then the prep time, order prep seconds, is how many seconds before 8:30 you're going to put your orders on the chart. So if it says 8:29:40, that's 20 seconds before 8:30. It's not 40, it's 20 seconds. That's why it's 20. So 20 seconds before 8:30, orders 18 ticks away from the current price and 30 ticks away from the current price are going to appear on the chart. That's how it works. The stop is 18. And then double check all your settings. That's all that gets changed. Okay. Now I'm going to say it again. I would prefer if everybody just practice. No one is really very expert yet at the trap trade. We're going to have a webinar as soon as the new version is ready. We just happen to be in between versions. Okay. Also, gold is pretty darn volatile today. So if you read, now I don't like the ES setup on this trade. I have tested it and I don't like it as a breakout. So I'll set it up. Even if it works today, it's not my favorite trade. Okay. So let me apply this and I'll check it again. We'll go over it again. And I am going to trade it. It's been working. So there's an ES setup that says a 7-tick bracket and a 10-tick stop. There's also not quite as much information as I'd want to see for a recommendation on a trade. So a 7-tick bracket and a 10-tick stop. So knowing how this report moves, if I was going to trade 2 positions, I'd go for 5 ticks. And actually 5 ticks and 10 ticks is fine by me. 1 position each. And my entry time would be 8:29:59. $8:29:59, and that's strictly a test because I've tested the ES on this report. I just haven't liked the trade. It just hasn't been reliable, in my opinion. So I'm leaving it on sim. 1 contract for 5 ticks, 1 contract for 10, a stop of 10, and an entry of 59. I'm going to say it again and again. I'm not crazy about the way the ES trades on this report as a breakout right now. So don't trade it live. It's a sim. This is probably a sim trade this morning because of learning. It's okay to not be an expert on something that we don't do a lot, and we have a new version coming. So it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So the ES trade, I'm going to just label it. I like it in the first. When you label it, it shows up in the first part of the strategy. Label. And I could do ES retail. And then I see it really well. Okay, so that's my ES trade. Now, I almost prefer, having my news off to the other side because there's so many elements that make up retail. There's a lot of elements that make up retail. Core retail is the important number. Also, New York manufacturing is being released. So if it comes out super early and it moves the market, you just want to be aware of that. And if you get, there is sometimes of a history where Empire State can be late or early. It's not an ultra impactful report, okay? Now, because let me go over the settings one more time on the trap. Let's just check our time sync first. Time is, we go to the website, time is. Okay, so I'm going to need a second for my dimension 4 to come up. So I will get myself in sync. So a lot of times people will try to sync, and what just happened to me will happen to you. So we have that other tool, dimension 4. On my machine, I have a certain program that slows down the entry of dimension 4, so I just have to wait for it. It's something I'm doing on my computer. It doesn't affect whether it works or not. It just slows down the fact when I call it up. It'll come up in a minute. So I'll show the trap trade setup one more time. Bracket center is price at the time. Average price bars is a default. That's 10. Okay, here my sync is up, so let me do that. So dimension 4, when it comes up, looks like this. And you click the sync now button, and if you notice, the synchronized line changes. So I click it a whole bunch of times, and then I redo completely my time.is. I close it and start it from scratch. I don't restart it from the website. I start it from scratch. And see, now I'm in sync because dimension 4 syncs to a different server, and it puts me in sync. Okay? That's what dimension 4 is supposed to do. So the trap trade setup, bracket center is price at the time. Average price bars is a default. That's 10. Position size 1 is a 1. Position size 2 is a 1. Wait for spike is a default. It's going to be on 5. Last fill price on stop. If you're using the old version of the trap, it might say average price. Click the arrow and change it to last fill. Then adjust your tiers. And like we said before, they can be a range. Okay? 16 through 18 is the range. I'm going with the outer numbers because of market volatility. So I'm using 18 and 30. The entry time, what time does the report come out? 8:30. So that's my entry time. And then order prep seconds or activation time. It's how many seconds before the report. That's the correct number. So if the activation is 40 seconds before the report, 8:29:40, that's actually 20 seconds before 8:30. So your order prep should be 20 seconds. That's the time. And we're changing that to say order prep activate. So it's not confusing. It's less confusing. Nothing else has to be changed. Okay, so you have your tiers. Don't forget to put your stop in. The stop is 18. Apply it like normal. Okay, it like normal. When you enable the trap trade, oh Lord. Okay, so I have, that's a Ninja Trader bug. So folks, I have to redo my Ninja. I'm very sorry. I've seen that before. I'm very, very close to the time of the trade. So because of that, I will probably trade in sim to be safe. Okay, because when I have that bug, I'll have to reinstall my Ninja. I've seen that before, and rather than have an issue, you have to be smart. And also, you see how I'm having a difficulty connecting? So something happened with my Ninja Trader. Maybe there's a corrupt file. And this is all part of life. I mean, sometimes things happen and you just you cannot panic. But you want to be smart, right? Be smart. If you have something that doesn't appear right, I mean, I know I can set the trade up live and I can do it fast enough. Okay. I can do it fast enough, but I don't like to rush. I see an issue that came up. What's the proper thing to do is to pass. You're talking real money. I don't want my boss to lose money because there's an issue on my machine. You know, maybe it's as simple as just rebooting, but I need to send a quick email to Ninja and make sure that there isn't a problem. So I'm going to do the right thing and trade it in Sim. We'll do the same test and look at what the ES just did. That's live market. It might be that all these warnings are a warning to be careful this morning. So, but I would have traded if I didn't have that error. I was ready to go. So, but because that error appeared and the trap trade could still be beautiful and perfect, I still would rather be safe and smart. The ES, we had a quick 7-tick bracket. We had 5 and 10 on our targets, and we had an 829.59 entry. So why doesn't everybody do what I'm doing? Just trade a test this morning. It's okay. Life is not over. And then everything's enabled. So we'll see what's going to happen. There's our news. You know, Adam, I have to send them an email. Honestly, I don't know. I've seen it very, very rarely. Very rarely. Okay. And I've always, for me, rebooting solves it, but I don't have time to reboot now with everybody in the room. So I'd rather show the trade. I went over how to explain it. We can watch it. We'll know what would have happened with a trap trade. There's no slippage, almost always. So the nature of the trade, because you're going in opposite directions of what's expected, and that's, hopefully I set it up fast and properly. Okay, I set it up properly. There's generally no slippage on a trap trade. What we're looking for is Empire State going to come out early? Or is it going to be on time? And I'm also hearing news in my ear set. There's our ES test. Okay, the retail news, Empire came out on time. The retail news is dribbling out. Overall, it's positive. Now, I would wait at least a minute before I cancel a trap trade. So it's right now, it filled both tiers. So if it goes up, you're going to have a winning trade. Our enemy is a move straight down. Okay. Look at the volatility on gold, 260 ticks. The odds of it moving straight down are strong today. So I'm almost glad I had the error. It's a risky day to trade. Like I said, you're in trouble here. Okay. You're in trouble. Gold has a huge, huge trend. You want to be smart. Now, we might survive. Look, we survived by a tick. Possibly, but maybe not, though. Possibly, you could have used, so it would have been a very bad trade. Okay? A very bad trade today. I hope everybody listened to me and traded in Sim. Adam, thank you. That would be very nice, Adam. Thank you very much. It could be the memory leak. I know what you're talking about, but send it to me. I would appreciate that. I saved myself, right? I was concerned to begin with because of the move in gold. However, so what does it tell you? Now, the ES is a cancel. We don't trade a minute and a half after the trade because the move It's not necessarily responding so much to the news. The news was somewhat mixed. Let's look really carefully and see if we can tell. So you've got retail sales up, quite up. So I would say the news was overall good. You have some minor parts of the retail news negative, but they are smaller pieces. You do want it all to agree because it does give you a better move, but gold moved the right way, or quote unquote, the way we would have expected it. But there was also a huge trend. And absolutely, Dutchy, today a breakout trade would have been the perfect trade. So what an irony, right? Retail has not been a breakout trade for 6 months. Honest, 6 months. 6 months we've been trading retail as a trap trade. The proof of it is if you look at the DMM, the daily trade report, we don't even have a setup anymore for a breakout on retail. Now, you've got one recent breakout that worked. And when I'm saying to you folks, honestly, it's one. The trap trade has been working every month. Look, you can see it. This is not made up. These are real results. Win, 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 win. The trap trade has won 6 months in a row. 6 months in a row. So you put down in your trade journal what happened today. It's very important to make the note, especially that the ES trade should be removed. It just isn't working. The ES is not the right trade for retail. And we'll look at a couple of different things. And I also want to talk about the 10 o'clock trade. I'm not in the room. There's no room, but I want to give people a heads up. So don't rush out if you're interested in trading University of Michigan. I want to just make a couple of comments about it. So the trap trade did not work because our biggest enemy is the move down. The move down. Now, honestly, folks, look, let's be real. I was going to trade it. I would have had a loss today. I would have traded it. I was very concerned about trading it because of the trend in gold. I was concerned. But we have a setup that's worked 6 months in a row, okay? So our system would say, hey, trade it, trade it. Trading's been difficult for the past couple of weeks. So, you know, especially because people don't know the trap trade, everybody did the right thing, hopefully, by practicing today, by practicing. And we have to put retail, we have to start, at least there's a small thought in your mind now that we want to keep an eye on retail as a breakout. We're not going to use one report to change the way we trade it. One stop out at a 7 is not a reason to ever change a report the way that you trade it. You would never do that. But you would make a note and keep an eye on the next couple of retails. My personal rule is if I get 3 in a row where a report is changed, that starts a trend. 3 is the beginning of a trend for me. When we first started the company, a trend was greater than 6. That's the way it was years ago. When the world crisis began, everything changed. But even 2 years prior to the world crisis, my trend was always shorter than my boss's trend. In other words, I would allow trades after 4 months of a trend that he would not allow until 6 months, at least, of a trend. And now we are on shorter trends because it's shown that the markets are behaving that way. Okay. All right. Now, very, very important to understand some warning signs that the market gives you. Now, look, the ES is heading up now. The news was good, okay? The retail news overall was good. Our trade was just slow. It wasn't that it was it was not a correct setup for the way the market's moving. That's why the ES doesn't work. It really just chopped around, okay? It just chopped around. And then after 5 minutes, it starts to respond possibly to good retail news, okay? Also, the trend is up on the ES this morning. When we got here, it was up 14 points. That's a decent move, okay? In these markets, it's not very much, really. Not like it used to be. 14 points was monstrous years ago. Now, it's not so much. Now, nobody would have thought you were a baby or a chicken if you came in, looked at the market, saw the move in gold, knew you were trading gold, knew that you wanted a reversal, and you analyzed and said, you know what? I probably should not trade a report that is geared towards a reversal today. There's too big of a trend, too large of a trend. The only argument against that is that even with trends, the trap trade tends to work. Okay. Now, Chantal is saying, look at MGC. You'll see the big move up like 100 ticks. Now, hey, Chantal, that's like a super low volume liquidity move, right? So you were trading MGC live, which we have seen is extremely difficult at times. So Chantal, what happened to you? Because I don't like trading the MGC live on a trap trade. Remember, we did it last month and it went crazy. It traded crazy. So it caught you, it stopped out the trap because it went so far. It went so far in one direction. But see, that's an abnormal move in a low liquidity instrument. The MGC is micro gold, but it's not a true micro. Please understand, it's not a true micro, okay? It's not, when I say it's not a true micro, it never caught on. It was introduced years ago. It's not like the new micros. It's not like MNQ, MCL, MES, MYM. It's not like the new micros. It's an old micro and they're trying to put new clothes on it. But it never was popular to trade. It has no liquidity and it does things like that and it costs you money. It's not to be traded regularly, because in the long run, it's going to harm you. It's not like the good micros, okay? Now, maybe they're not going to release a proper gold micro and it will get more popular and have better trading characteristics. Right now, it doesn't have good trading characteristics. Let me talk about a couple other things. Let's look at, so if you go back to gold, though, so what's the lesson to take away from today? You got a reversal, but the size of the move makes a trap trade not work. You'd have to have like a 50-tick stop, 40-tick stop for that type of a reversal to work, okay? So you understand why our setup might not have worked today. MGC is an evil micro. The setup did not work today. Happily, I recommended everybody trade testing, okay? So no harm, no foul for anyone today. Good lesson day. Good lesson day. You know, sometimes I don't have to trade live to prove if something's going to work. We know, because the trap trade is a low slippage event, because it trades opposite directions. We know definitively it did not work today. Okay, that's what we know. And it really was the first out of 6 that didn't work. So somebody who's here for the first time, don't go off thinking that our system is lousy because it didn't work today. We have 6 previous that work great. Okay. So you just have to take everything in with its true transparency. You have to look at the truth. Yes, Chantal, I was not stopped by a lot. I was not stopped by a lot. If I would have had a 25 tick stop, right, which maybe would be sensible on gold, it's a lot of risk. You know, you're risking at least $500 on the trade. That's a lot to risk on a trade, but a trap trade can give you a great profit also. It was a big move, which is not unexpected today. The markets have been very volatile all week on news. Now, I wanted to talk to everybody briefly about the next report. There is no trade room. Usually there is. And there's something that I personally discovered. Now, if you look at the report, it hasn't been behaving. It's a report that we put on the sidelines. That's why there's no results from March to July. Trade was benched April, May, June, okay, for 3 months. Then I noticed it started moving again, and it looked pretty good. It looked pretty good. But I also noticed our bracket was too small, and we were getting stopped. We got stopped in August, and we got stopped in September. And my personal feeling is the bracket is definitely higher, okay? If I bring up an older... Oh, and very good point also, Mark. The indexes could be moving on Goldman Sachs earnings. That's a market moving earnings report. It's earnings season. There's many things you must be aware of when you're trading, especially during earnings season. Once a news report is over, make sure you know what's going on in the markets. And always check, there's a very good site, Earnings Whispers, that will give you a good, earningswhispers.com shows you all the earnings that are taking place. So what I'm looking for is the DMM from 9/17. So if I can find it real quick, I'll show it to you. And I have it. I just want to show you. Now the bracket's 7 and it was increased to 8 for the next one. I recommended 10. If I were going to trade University of Michigan, and based on the way the report looks, it was benched. It was 2 stops in a row. I would only trade it with a bracket of 10. I would not. To me, going from 7 to 8 doesn't address the problem enough. But look, it's Friday. It's been difficult trading the past week or two. Why do you need to finish out your week on a report that isn't phenomenal? Now, I had no trade room this morning, not because the report was bad. I would have had a trade room. I have to go somewhere, which is pretty rare. I try never to schedule anything that I have to do that interferes with a trade room. Sometimes I don't have a choice. So I wasn't not having the trade room because the report is bad. But if I were testing this report, my setup, because of my trade journal, is a bracket of 10. That doesn't mean my boss is wrong. He's actually doing different type of analysis than what we do in the trade room. He's going back, looking at all the market movements, and he's basing his bracket on the analysis of market movements. I'm doing my analysis on test trades and live trades. So I feel that for us in the trade room, that I like my brackets. If my bracket's a little bit bigger, I'm taking my bracket because I've done my testing. Everybody trades differently. And I don't always agree. Two traders don't always agree with everything being exact, and that's okay. That's part of trading. So if you have interest, I would not end my Friday on a report that looks like this with real money. I just wouldn't. But if you're stubborn and you need action, make your bracket a 10. Okay. That would be the change that I would consider. That's what I would consider. Because that's what my notes say. And you know what? Let me be 195 zillion% certain that my notes say 10. University of Michigan, last month, 10-tick bracket actually looks good. Slower cancel acceptable, 45 seconds. Okay. So my recommendation would be do a sim trade on it, learn the platform better. Don't end your week on a bad trade, on a loser. End your week on education and positivity, and look forward to next week. Next week, we have a couple of earnings trades. That's brand new for people in the room. People in the room have not, a lot of people are new. They've never seen the way we do earnings. It's very strange in a way. I have a very unusual method of trading earnings, and it uses a setup. I'm going to teach a setup that everybody has not had familiarity with. There's a setup in our software that I use for earnings trades. And blessing, I trade only about 4 or 5 earnings reports every quarter. Yes, Chantal. Thank you, everybody on YouTube. If you'd be kind enough to give us a like or two, sign up for the channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll know all the time we're streaming. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on YouTube.